Welcome to the Scrum Sessions podcast. Here in Dallas, I am Q.
And I'm Gary. Can't even say my name, but we're going to keep rolling. I'm Gary on, straight from Berlin. Hey, everybody. Good to see you again.
Okay, very good. It's always good to have a blooper inserted, okay? So, my friend, last time we recorded, we talked about product owner pet peeves.
Yeah.
Now, and it wasn't that long because we cut it short. Now, let's talk about Scrum Master pet peeves, and that one may end up being a bit longer. So, I'll start that. You start the other one, I'm going to start the other one, this one. So, my first Scrum Master pet peeve, the abuse of the meaning of servant leadership. It's not sit back and let the house catch fire because, well, the team wants to do that. It's not setting up meetings and let things just run their course. If that's what you think your job as a Scrum Master is, I have news for you. I can find somebody to do that for a lot less money. And it doesn't get in the way. So that's pet peeve number one. So ping pong again, the ball, it's in your court.
Actually, this is my number one as well, and I would like to add to it. And so the thing that ticks me off the most about Scrum Masters, and I'm a Scrum Master at heart, right, is if they don't get their hands dirty, right? So I've recently learned of a motto that's being used in restaurants, for example, or cafes, for example, and it's called look for work, right? And so that means, and this can actually be transferred to a lot of chaotic situations. It's not only for restaurants. It's where there is no central planning or even decentralized planning possible anymore, right? So you actually push everything to the people doing the work, and you cannot tell a waiter what to do next, all the steps, right? It's too complicated. It's evolving too quickly. Somebody's raising their hand to order something, and then something falls down. So there's no planning possible at all. And so then you use a principle, a motto like look for work. And I've started using that with Scrum Masters because if they are not looking for work, they're not doing something right. They're just like the waiter in the restaurant that doesn't react if you raise your hand, for example, right? Or that doesn't greet a guest that comes in. So there can be nobody to tell them what to do. They actually have to have that initiative and start rolling off of that, right? And like getting into things and automatically reacting to things as they happen. And so if they're not willing to get their hands dirty, if they're not willing to look for work, I'm sorry, but then they're not qualified to be a Scrum Master. They can be theoretically, academically qualified as much as they want to be. If they can't do this little principle, if they can't follow that, they are not qualified to do the job as a Scrum Master, in my opinion.
Yeah, you are totally right. And okay, pong, ball back to me. I ask this question to product owners all the time and to Scrum Masters too. So question is, how long does it take on average for something that you put in a backlog to actually get delivered? You know how many people actually answer that? Very few. And I find actually criminal responsibility when a Scrum Master cannot tell me that. Hey, how long does it take from something that gets in the backlog until something gets out of the door? We can get into value stream mapping here and all the details, but the thing is, how come you are a Scrum Master and you have no idea how long things take, how long some steps into that whole process take, and what you're going to do with your team to shorten those steps? I never hear that. I wouldn't say never, but very seldom, to tell you the truth. And that's very scary because Scrum Master, it's all about improvement. Improving the process, improving the people, improving the tools. So if you cannot tell me how long things take to happen, and you cannot tell me what you're going to do to shorten those times, that's for me, it's called dereliction of duty, which goes in, hey, we have to look for work. So if I'm a new Scrum Master, the first thing I do when I get a new team is, besides knowing the team and etc., is let me figure out how things work around here. Call it value stream if you want to use the correct name, but let me figure out how things work over here, and let me figure out how long it takes to get things done. Because then I can start adding value with my team to make those things cheaper, better, and faster. If you're not doing that, you're not a Scrum Master. I'm sorry. Okay, ball in there.
Back to me. Yeah, so the next thing, and it might sound a little bit strange is their energy level, right? So I think everybody has been in that situation where they were at work and, the boss comes in very angrily, right? He comes in and he's already charged, maybe had a fight with his wife or something like that, right? And he comes in and everybody just sits out because they can just feel the energy. Or at another situation, the boss came in and was super relaxed and immediately everybody is at ease, right? And it doesn't actually have to be the boss. It can be other people from the team as well. So what I'm trying to say is that like some parts of your personal energy are going to be transferred to other people, right? This is just normal. We're social beings. And so we just like infect each other with our energy. And so the Scrum Master, in my mind, is actually, as we call it in the book, is the negentropic agent, right? So negentropy is the opposite of entropy, and entropy basically means everything falls apart over time, right? This is just normal. Everything ends, everything falls apart over time. But we have that role of the Scrum Master to actually work against that, right? Somebody that's always keeping their eye out on stuff that's not working, that can be improved. And if you're the Scrum Master and you cannot expend or provide that energy to the team, to actually go against this constant decay of all systems that exist in the world, then you're not the right person as a Scrum Master. And if you're actually coming into the team, let's say into a Teams call or into a physical room, and the energy in the room goes down, then in my opinion, you're not the right person for the job. That's not meant to say that you can't have a bad day, or that's not meant to say that you're going to have to be the jokester, right? Always like keeping morale up. That's not what I'm saying. But if, people actually slow down when you enter a call or enter a room, and I think all of us have experienced people that have that effect, right? Then you're not the person as a Scrum Master, because your job is actually to energize people, to keep them motivated and to get things going, to get things done. And so if you're the person that's actually like slowing everyone down, like habitually, like regularly, then in my opinion, you're not the right person for the job.
Yeah, which bringing back to me, something we already discussed when we talk about our pet peeves for agile coaches, but this applies to Scrum Masters too. If you are not a trained psychologist, psychiatrist, or therapist, stay out of advising people on stuff that you don't understand. And I don't care what so-and-so said on LinkedIn, so-and-so said in Scrum Gathering, so-and-so said on the Agile conference. If you are not trained, do not get into that territory. You can mess up things for the person really badly. You can mess up things for the team really badly. If you are not trained, don't go there, okay? Go talk to human resources, people ops, whatever you're going to call it, and they will find a professional who can address those things. And that is a very critical thing for me. I've seen a lot of Scrum Masters and Agile coaches, we discussed this before, getting into that territory and doing terrible things, horrible things because of that.
Yeah. So the next one for me is if they don't develop themselves, right? So they are actually fulfilling the role of the person that's facilitating change and improvement in a team. But if they themselves don't really have a growth mindset, right? You don't see them reading books, they're not catching up on new trends, they're not learning new things, then I kind of have a hard time believing that they're the right person to help others do that, right? So how can I expect my team to improve their ways of working, for example, if I don't improve my ways of working, right? And so usually that's not a problem because most Scrum Masters are very growth-oriented, right? So they read the books, they go to the trainings and so on. But sometimes also they start off with it in the beginning and then they peter off, right? And then they say, well, I've done my Scrum Master, my, let's say, advanced Scrum Master. I've read a couple of books on the topic. I can do it pretty well. And to me, that's not the right attitude because you can always do better just as you would do with a team, right? You wouldn't start up a team, then go a couple of sprints and say, hey, we've improved velocity, we've improved our productivity to a certain point. Now let's slack off and let's just keep it there, right? The goal is always to improve. I know it's hard, but the goal is always to improve and not to like stop improving after a couple of sprints or a year or so. So if you're not like constantly growing, almost fixated on growing, I think people will have a hard time believing that they should improve if you're not like showing up as a self-improver yourself.
Absolutely, especially when you go to the team and say, you guys have to be T-shaped and not, etc. And then, okay, what other skills you have besides being a Scrum Master? Oh, none.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're telling me to be T-shaped, right? Which brings me an addendum to that peeve. About 2 weeks ago, I was interviewing people for a Scrum Master position that opened to at a client, right? And I ask a couple general questions just to keep the thing going and all that stuff. I usually do a 50-minute interview. And I asked, how do you define waste? And it was interesting that most people couldn't answer that in any way, shape, or form. But one person in particular said, oh, I heard that's a lean thing. That has nothing to do with Scrum. So it goes back about your skills, right? You have to understand a lot more things. Scrum is not the end of all. And Scrum originated from lean principles. And in the end, you have to understand a lot more than just Scrum to be a good Scrum Master. So it goes definitely back to you. Anything else, my friend?
Yeah, I got one last one, and they're all pretty closely related. And maybe people are surprised that they're like more, I don't know, characteristics or mindsets. But the last one is violence of action. And by that, I mean the following. If an impediment comes up, I can't have a Scrum Master say, oh yeah, that's interesting, I'll put it on the backlog. And then in 2 days, I think I'm not going to have meetings, and then I might take a look at it, and then we might be able to solve it, right? Because you need to shorten the time between everything, basically, right? How long does it take you from impediment to arrive to actually fix it, right? Sometimes you can fix it, and then that's another story. But like if it's actually under your control, you should try to get it done as quickly as possible, because then follow-on processes can happen, right? The team can continue the work, for example. Don't just wait there and just let things pass. You have to show some level of violence of action where you see that there's something to be done, and then you spring into action, and then you actually do it. Nobody needs you to wait around, right? Nobody needs you to sit in meetings all the time. Nobody needs to sit in meetings to facilitate them, and then you don't actually contribute anything. There's nothing getting done. Your job is to make sure things are getting done as quickly and as violently as possible. And yes, that sometimes means spending money, right? So if I see Scrum Masters and then say, well, yeah, I could fix it right now, but it would cost $50, but let's just wait 2 days, and then it's not going to cost anything, and then I don't have the trouble of the paperwork to get those $50 approved. That's madness, in my opinion. I've spent so much of my private money in the past on like putting down the $50 to get the problem resolved, and then later on try to fix it. And sometimes the money's required a little bit more than $50, but the principle is important, right? You want to show violence of action. You want to make sure that things get resolved as quickly as possible, because if you don't, then everything starts falling apart again. Everything is slowing down again. And again, it's your job to make things speed up, so people say, hey, wow, crazy, he put down 50 euros or dollars of his own money, right? Or that, wow, he actually took this very seriously and got a fight with the manager to get the $5,000 to actually solve this problem. And that is your job as a Scrum Master. It's not to wait. It's not to hold out. It's not to manage this stuff. It's to start running with a red hat if needs to be, right? You're running around and your head is getting all flustered and stressed, and you're sweating and everything. That's your job as a Scrum Master. If the problem gets solved, you're not actually making a fool out of yourself. You're actually performing the job as it's intended, but then you are getting things done. You're unblocking the team, and the team can actually then produce something of value.
Yeah, which brings me 2 questions I always ask Scrum Masters, okay? Number 1 is, what value do you actually bring to a team? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to hear that I am a servant leader. I don't want to hear any of this stuff, okay? It goes back to, what do I do for my team? So people have to be very careful when they answer this question, because I'm gonna poke holes on it. And the second question is, last time you had a team, I don't know, your last job, whatever, or one time, what was the process efficiency in percentage points of that team? If you cannot answer that one for me, I don't know what you're doing as a Scrum Master, but you're definitely not doing your job. So that's it on my side. You good?
Yeah, let me just add something, because okay. I disagree with it. I see your point, but I also think if somebody doesn't have the stats ready, I would like them to have the stats ready and, to give that answer, or to be at least able to look for them. But I've also seen Scrum Masters who actually did everything that was required, right? They didn't have the understanding, they couldn't tell you the stats, but they as soon as a problem popped up, they would jump up and solve the problem. And for me, that's enough. If I see that, that's very hard to quantify, right? But for me, that's actually good. I want to see that attitude of I'm getting shit done. Like I'm resolving the problems for the team. I'm taking care of them. And then I personally don't care so much about all the statistics. I just want to see somebody that is like removing problems for others. And then I'm personally good with it.
I'll agree with you, but a chief executive Scrum Masters have numbers and metrics because leadership goes after numbers and metrics.
Yes, absolutely.
But I totally agree with you. From Dallas, I am Q.
And from Berlin, I'm Gary. Thanks for tuning in again and hope to see you around soon. Bye-bye.